Simon Jacobson here, another episode of Meaningful Live. October 7th, 2 years later. What have we learned? Are we wiser? This program is dedicated by Michael Groot in loving memory of his father, Robert L. Groot. A tremendous tragedy happened 2 years ago. 2 days from now will be the second anniversary of the atrocities perpetrated against 1,200 innocent men, women, and children in the south of Israel, near Gaza. The single most Jews killed since the Holocaust in one day. But not just killed. When you start hearing or seeing the brutality, it's just impossible to even fathom. And now we are 2 years later. And it's still not over. There's talks about peace, the last hostages being released, but it hasn't happened yet. The senselessness of it. How many lives have been shattered? Yes, and I will talk about the response as well. Israel's response. We don't know the exact numbers because they're coming from very dubious sources who intentionally use propaganda as part of their weaponry. But definitely people have been killed. Many people have been killed. Gaza has turned into a wasteland in many ways. I'm not here to discuss whether it was justified or not, just like I wouldn't discuss whether it was justified to flatten Hiroshima and Nagasaki or Germany at the end of World War II. But clearly, our hearts are all broken. Anyone who's sensitive to see what has happened here. To justify October 7th, which many people do, is, to me, being as complicit in the crimes as the ones that perpetrated it. Yes, I understand for some people it's coming from ignorance, again, propaganda, but certain things can't be justified. You can't justify the burning of a child alive in front of its parents. It's just not justifiable. So what have we learned? What have we learned? There are many questions that still remain hanging. The question of how did this happen in the first place? How could Israel, with such sophisticated technology, being able to pinpoint and kill its enemies 1,400 miles away in Tehran? Or the story with the pagers and the beepers with Hezbollah, and so many other seemingly miraculous technologies. How could they have let their guard down and allow they're literally not 1,400 miles away, just a mile away, the building of such sophisticated tunnels that allow such an attack, the breach, and for hours and hours on end? We still don't have an answer to that question. And in stark contrast to whatever happened in Iran, and in Lebanon, and in Syria, the Gaza still remains this quagmire, this abyss that doesn't seem that we can unentangle ourselves from. Now, obviously, look at me. I'm Jewish, so I'm probably biased. I'm probably subjective, and you can dismiss me as such. But I try to be fair-minded. I try to look at all the sides of it, all the angles. And even if you were to find ways to criticize Israel and criticize the past, but the bottom line is, as essentially has been stated many times, if Hamas and Israel's enemies laid down their arms, there'd be peace. If Israel lays down its arms, there'd be war, there'd be brutality, there'd be a genocide. You can't deny that fact. without going into an analysis, which I've done in other situations and other programs, of why there's such hatred, that the Muslim world, the Muslim Arab world, cannot deal with Israel existing, at least a big part of it, is out of the scope of our discussion right now. So here are a few lessons I think that I've learned. I've learned how evil can be seen as good and good can be seen as evil. That when you fight a psychological war, and yes, you take advantage, you can really brainwash people into thinking anything. To me, it's very clear. Every war, unless there's a complete end to the war, has a winner and a loser. Someone has to surrender. And in this case, since Hamas started it, they should surrender. I understand they'll say Israel started because Israel has occupied their land, has banished many of the natives, and so on. But the bottom line is, the events that happened now, October 7th, they perpetrated. And there's one simple thing, the call for a surrender. Why is that not the call? Just like the call for surrender from the Japanese and the Nazis, the Germans during World War II. And it wasn't conditional surrender, it was unconditional surrender. It's unheard of that the loser dictates terms. So I understand they're holding hostages. Had they not held hostages, you wouldn't have their ability to do so. But the Germans also held hostages. They had millions of Jews in concentration camps, whatever the numbers were at the end of World War II. But once lines have been crossed, lines have been crossed. I cry for the children of Gaza. I cry for all the innocent men, women, and children in Gaza. I'm not sure how many are innocent. I understand not all of them perpetrated the brutalities and atrocities, but many of them definitely applauded it, were definitely silent. And you don't hear much protests about it. But regardless, even if there's one innocent person, I cry for them. But solutions come either through total unconditional surrender. That's how it works in history. There's no other way. If the Nazis had not completely surrendered unconditionally and you'd let them save face, what would have happened? And look today, the Germans and the Japanese are allies of the United States and of Israel and of Jews, precisely because it was very clear, the lines were drawn. You started a war, now it'll be ended on our terms, not on your terms. And that's what created peace, the strength. Any ambiguity only prolongs the agony. That's one tremendous lesson. Another is don't become naive and arrogant. As long as someone has declared war against you, know a declaration of war, even if they're not fighting you technically, is a declaration of war. Perhaps Israel thought they could easily control Hamas, or they would never do it. Well, they learned a very hard lesson, a very, very hard lesson. Number 3, what is the real battle in the war will be the re-education of the young Muslims and Arabs in their schools, in their homes. Just like Christians once upon a time were taught that Jews were the enemy, Christ killers, and there's still plenty of anti-Semitism that lingers, but countries like the United States and other Western countries came to understand that all human beings are created equal, including Jews. That the Muslim world has to come to terms with that fact. Because you can destroy Hamas, you can destroy whatever the names are. There'll be a new generation of haters. That's where the real battle it should be fought. It's not discussed enough because everyone thinks, okay, you can't intervene in others, it's the sovereignty of other countries. But now when they're spewing hate, that's actually killing not just Israelis for that matter, the world. The Western world. The great Satan is America in their eyes of those people. That brings me to lesson number 4. This is not a war of Israel versus the Muslim Arab world. It's a battle between right and wrong. Therefore, it's a battle for every country on this earth. When just a few days ago, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, in Manchester, a Muslim terrorist, attacked and killed Jews, that was not in Israel. It's a war against the world, against freedom. And the idea that this is only against the Jews is an illusion. Because if you kill one innocent person, you're ready to kill all innocent people. Number 4, and maybe this is the silver lining, the tremendous wake-up call that this has created for so many of us. Not for everyone. Mind you, many people, again, buying into the propaganda, and it's really created a tremendous distortion. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it's a wake-up call for so many of us who start looking at it and saying, what is right and wrong? And it's a wake-up call. What have we taught our children? Where do we stand? What is the moral clarity of our times? Moral compass. And as such, it's an opportunity literally, for the first time in history, to create true peace and harmony between Muslims, Christians, and Jews in that region. The Abraham Accords should extend to all the countries in that region. That's what this should lead to. Not the opposite, more hostility, more compromise, more ambiguity. There's an expression in the book of Daniel that one of the signs of the future is that there'll be clarity. We'll see what is dark, what is light, what is right, what is wrong. Clarity is a great blessing, even though it's not comfortable. Or like we like to say, the ugly truth is a lot more beautiful than a beautiful lie. It's not comfortable to see your enemy in your face. It's easier just to be in denial or minimize. So here we have real stark lines have been drawn in the sand. And we can teach ourselves and our children what is right, what is wrong. And it's an opportunity, a tremendous opportunity to create real peace in that entire world, part of the world. And those that don't want that peace, let them be isolated. And finally, among many other lessons, I see the power of money. Sadly, I'm not going to go into names and details. Once there's financial benefits, whether it's coming from deals with Qatar or other countries that have their own philosophies, things get distorted. You're not always looking at what is right or what is wrong. And that is definitely having an effect on the negotiations. But I'm a firm believer that the truth will rise and will prevail, because if it doesn't, the cancer will pop its head and reveal that all this was a farce. So for this to really work, it has to be a true and lasting peace. And that's only when you really accept the other and you respect them. You don't try to kill them. And you do it through speaking and through negotiations. And you're not always going to get what you want. But it can be driven by hatred and by violence. And I want to conclude ultimately with a prayer, a heartfelt prayer, especially to those lives that have been taken and the families that have been shattered, including of the hostages. May the hostages be released very quickly, safe and sound, return to their families. May God console and comfort those that have lost members of their families, people who fought in this war and other wars to protect innocent men, women, and children. And may there be peace by all human beings, all. The Jews, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, people who call themselves whatever name they call themselves, non-believers, atheists, agnostics, whatever it may be, all children of God created in the divine image. And may we go forward, finally come to a point where we can find and discover the harmony within the diversity of all the humans that God put on this earth. God bless you all. God bless every individual on this earth. And God help us eradicate those that are sowing and continue to perpetuate hatred, violence, anger, darkness, and death. May it be a life of only love, light, and beauty. Be blessed and be well.